I'm in the trailer today. I have to repair the toilet. The valve is faulty. It's worn out. It's from 2006. So I've turned the heater on because it's a little chilly outside today. And one thing that my wife would really appreciate here is the fact that with the furnace running, I'm getting really nice hot air blowing right out on my feet here while I'm working, which is kind of nice. The job that I'm doing, which will give me the opportunity to clean some of the dirt up back here, not our dirt, it was like this when we got it, is to replace this valve right here. Pretty simple task. And remove the tank bolts, which I've already done. So I just have to disconnect this completely and then lift the toilet right out of here. And at that point, I'm going to cut this line and put a shutoff on there so I can turn the water off to the toilet without turning the water off to the rest of the trailer now and in the future. I'm gonna cut this right here and put a shutoff on. I'm just gonna use a standard PEX crimped shutoff on here, and that's one thing that I was quite pleased to see when I got the trailer, is that it is just standard PEX piping. Putting the shutoff in should be dead easy. Yeah, basically I'll cut it off just right behind where this compression ring currently is. And done. It's about as simple as it gets. So now that I've got the water situation under control, I can clean all this up and go ahead and replace the valve on the back of the toilet. The toilet has this little extra riser on here, which is kind of a neat thing. It makes it much more comfortable to sit on. I removed it so that I could clean underneath it as well, and I see that I have a broken flange. So I will need to replace that before I put things back together. Well, this thing's pretty brittle. And not all the screws are into solid floor. I don't think there's been any leaking around here. The floor is solid back here. So, but I guess I'll see once I remove the flange. That is glued right to the top of the pipe. Okay, that'll be a trick. I need to get a tool to cut the inside of that pipe so I can glue down a new flange. Good times. And if you're saying to yourself, hey Arne, you cut that piece off, how are you going to connect your toilet to the water supply now? Well, I'm replacing it with this flexible connector right here. That is how. And something interesting to note, if you're ever changing a supply line on the back of an RV toilet yourself, is that the supply line is not your standard toilet supply line. On some RV toilets, the supply line is the same as one that would connect to a sink, so double check that. And I figured that if I'm going to be working on this toilet, I might as well clean and disinfect it. But, yeah. Please don't tell my wife that I defiled our bathtub. I'd really appreciate that. Thank you. So I need to take a closer look at this flange and the seal in the flange. However, I put gloves on because, well, you know, some of you are probably wondering why I hadn't put gloves on much sooner. And, yeah, I guess I'm probably wondering the same thing myself. My new valve came with a new seal. which will fit on the base of the toilet. So the nice thing about that seal there, which was on the base of the toilet, it's exactly the same as the seal that was on the base of that pedestal that I just took out of the closet flange on the floor. And yeah, so this will go in the garbage. That'll be used under the base, and the new seal will go on the base of the toilet. So everybody's happy. A little scrubbing with the toilet brush cleans that right up. So I had to go grab the whole box of gloves out of my truck, because I need to take a closer look at this closet flange to determine whether or not it's threaded in, which is how some RVs do it, if it's glued in, which is how some others do it, or if the actual pipe itself might be removable from the top of the black tank. It might just be a friction fit into there. So before I start cutting anything, I need to grab a hold of it and see if I can unscrew it to remove it. Birds. Because if I can do that, that'll make life a little easier. But I wasn't going to do that without gloves. See, I can see yellow ABS glue right here. And if I'm lucky, this will remove from the tank. I don't think I'm lucky. Shoot. So if that turns like that, why isn't it coming up? I wonder if it's threaded and glue got in there. So I've got glue interfering with threads. I've gone a full revolution. Wow. It's a good thing I'm so strong. Problem is I can't tell what's turning. Is the pipe that comes out of the top of the black tank turning? Or is the flange turning in the pipe? I do not know. Because somebody glued it in. Yeah, that's what's going on here. Somebody glued in a threaded flange. Holy cannoli! Oh, okay. Bottom of my toilet flange right there. Right there. That down there with that other flange, that's the top of my black tank. So I do need to cut this thing off. It's a little bit stinky, this burning plastic. So I need to do that all the way around. There's the flange portion, and this is what is glued onto the outside of that pipe. I need to cut off, so I think I'll probably be cutting that by hand. So what I'm attempting to do is make relief cuts around the edge of this, and then pop this off. These break it off in little tabs actually, and save this piece on the inside. Unfortunately, I'm not having any luck. It is cemented on there very well, and it's not coming off like that. On the positive side, I know exactly what I'm looking at now. The insert piece that goes into the top of the waste tank has upper and lower flange on it, which is why it doesn't pull straight out. It's made out of rubber, And without the glued piece around it, it would probably be more flexible and I'd be able to manipulate it and get it out of there. At the end of the day, what I think I'm gonna have to do is just go to town on this thing, remove the whole thing, and start over. Get a new piece that fits into the top of the waste tank, get a new flange, then I can put the toilet back together. Well, considering that I've soaked the toilet in bleach water and scrubbed it out, I don't think my wife will get too mad that I have it sitting on the counter here on an old towel. But I wanted to show you the whole reason for pulling the toilet out in the first place. And that's because this valve has gone bad. Symptoms, what were the symptoms of that? You pull the flush lever and it wouldn't allow any water into the bowl. Normally you pull it halfway and the bowl fills with water. You pull it all the way and it releases the valve and dumps the bowl. This wasn't allowing water in, meaning that this valve is no longer working properly. They're not that expensive, they don't last forever, and I have the replacement part right here to go in. And so I might as well do it up on the counter where I have good light and it's at a nice height to work at. And that's all there is to it, seriously. It comes in and out that easy. Can I put the other one in one-handed? Let's find out. I needed two hands for two things. One, I needed to pull this lever back to give me more distance here to be able to turn this so that this would slot into the groove in here. And I needed two hands to push this hose back on here. I'm surprised there isn't a hose clamp here. I wonder if there's supposed to be one. It doesn't seem that it was leaking water up here before, otherwise this label would be all mushy. I'm gonna perhaps put a little hose clamp on there anyway. And I've also connected the supply line here, so as soon as I get a new flange in place, I can reinstall the toilet. It's ready to go back in. Hey, hello again. Hello again. Hello again. Just made that up. I'm gonna dive back into the project. It's been about a week. I work, so I can't work on it every day. And it took me a few days to gather the parts necessary to complete the project. And so let's get to it. Working with 3-inch ABS here, and fortunately I found this old piece that we had here on the farm. Yeah, so I don't have to go out and buy any because I only need maybe 2 inches. So it would have been a waste to go and buy that when I already have it. The full length that I have here is way more than I need, so I'm just cutting a short piece off. I'll clean that up, take it in to the trailer, measure what I need from that, and then cut my final piece from that. And I can put you back where I got you from. So I've got all my parts necessary now to put everything back together. I've got a new closet flange, and I had a choice between this one and another one. This one is a 3-inch that fits over the pipe. The other one was a 3-inch that fit inside the pipe. Because I'm going to be gluing this joint, it didn't really matter whether I went inside or outside. But what did matter to me is this flange has 8 mounting holes, and because of the big gap around the hole around the current one, you saw that it's not a nice round hole. It kind of hacked it out on one side. Might have been for access, not sure, but it is what it is. Only maybe, did I say 8? There are 6. Only maybe 4 of the 6 are going to be able to grab the screws, where the screws go in here. Where if the other one only had 4, then only 3 are going to grab. And so I chose to go with this one because there is more, it'll have a better anchoring to the floor itself. That seal that you see in the base will go in here. Then the toilet will go on top of that with this new seal here. The problem with the other one, what they did, let me show you, and why it has given me so much grief. It's been glued in place, and so it's not serviceable, which is why I have to mutilate everything to get it out. Which is why I've had to buy a new one of these. Now there's no reason to glue this. Your 3-inch pipe fits inside here. It's a tight fit, it's a friction fit, but it fits. And because this toilet, like none of this is pressurized, right? You open up the bowl at the bottom of the toilet and everything just falls down the hole. So as long as you've got this inserted, and it inserts all the way down to here, so it inserts almost 2 inches, 1 3/4, you're not going to get any leaking there. So this gets glued, sure, but if you ever need to service it, listen to me now, don't glue it down here. Friction fit it, glue the top. I'll have to, this will be shorter obviously because the floor isn't, 8 inches thick. Glue the top, but then if I ever need to service this, I can take these screws out and I can pull this out in one piece and this fitting will stay in the tank. That's not what I can do here because everything has been glued in place. So they've made it non-serviceable really. So what I need to do now is just take my saw and go to town in a number of places around here so that I can remove this whole fitting and tank insert piece from the tank itself. But I'm not going to record that because I'm going to use my phone to listen to some music while I'm working. Okay, I've got a few cuts in here. I think that might actually give me what I need. Yeah. So, see, they've cemented that in there. And as a result, this is what it took to get it out. So, excellent. I will be replacing this rubber piece right here. Looking at this, it's threaded, and yet they still glued it. Had they not glued it, I could have just simply unthreaded it and replaced the closet flange with a threaded one. People make a lot of work for somebody like me. But you know what? This is why when you go and have any service done, it costs money because it's the labor involved. It's not so much the parts, but there's a whole lot of labor involved in working with stuff like this. It just is. So figuring out my length of 3-inch ABS piping, I've got 1 3/4 until it bottoms out in this rubber fitting. So here's my thought. I've got some soapy water. I've got some shop rags. I'm going to clean up that top of the tank around there, and then I'm going to shoot a little lithium grease into the seam of this fitting here, this rubber fitting, which should make it a little easier to slip this into place. But before I do this, the gloves are coming back on.
You know, maybe the soapy water would be enough to allow me to slip this gasket in place. Maybe I'll try it with that first. If that doesn't work, well, then I can always go with grease. What I don't want to do is drop this in the hole. So if that happens, well, yeah, that's a whole nother video series. Turn, put this in place. It's hard to do, but it's made to go in here, so I might have it. Okay, soapy water for the win. Okay, you're good. Now I need to go and cut my piece. What did I say? 2 inches plus 3/4. So I'll be back right away with that. So I'm going to get my ABS glue and I'm going to glue this little tail piece into my closet flange. Okay, be right back. I just thought of another way that I could check to make sure that this tail piece is long enough. You see where the top of my rubber fitting is down there? I bet you if I took this tail piece out and I set this closet flange in place so that this piece here made contact with the top of the rubber. Don't worry, these things are clean yet. Nothing has touched them. I'm going to check that. What I do want to know is if this is too long here, then I might have to trim a little bit off of here because I don't want this to be pushing down on the flange. I don't want to put pressure down on it. I just want it to seat into it nicely. Oh yeah, would you look at that? That is now touching the rubber piece, and I am about 1/4 inch proud. So I need to trim about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch off the bottom of this closet flange. I'm glad I checked that. Now it may seem like an obvious thing, but one of the tricks that I have found to being able to cut things as squarely as possible when you're cutting by hand is to make sure you have them securely held in place and that you've got them held in place in such a way that they actually are square. So this flange is sitting flat and square, and which gives me the best chance to make a nice square cut by hand. Another thing is to not force the saw blade. Let the saw do the work. Don't force it. Just a little bit of pressure and back and forth, and let the saw cut for you. You are not the saw. It's not perfect, but it is pretty close, and it will do exactly what I needed to do. I also like to rough it up a little bit inside. That just helps the glue bond a little bit more. So clean and scuffed a little bit. Now that sits flush, and there's just a tiny gap. It's less than 1/4 of an inch between the bottom of the closet flange and the top of this rubber fitting. So that is exactly what we want. And then they're not fighting with each other, you know what I mean? So now to glue these pieces together, I'm going to take them outside because the last thing I want to do is drip glue in my trailer. And the type of glue is just ABS glue. That's all you need. Had this for a long time. You know what's funny? This was a brand that was bought from an actual plumbing store. I've had this for years. Like, it's stayed liquid. Where it seems like the ones that I buy from the big box store, while they'll do the job at the time, they always seem to go hard on me. And I don't understand why. So if you're gonna buy some,
Well, no, I'm not going to make brand recommendations. I'm just going to tell you what happened with me, my experience. Give him a little twist. It's fully seated. That will seal up very quickly. I should say it'll set very quickly. If I wanted to remove this now, I probably wouldn't be able to. Yeah, you see what the glue does? See how it's broken down the plastic? It actually fuses the plastic together, which is why when you rough it up a little bit, it just gives it a little bit better ability to fuse. Now, I've just got that sitting in there loosely right now. But I wanted to show you something else, and that depends on how you're going to want your toilet situated. In my case, I want the toilet to be square from the wall. I want you to consider these things before you permanently screw it down to the floor.
For now, what I'm going to do is hit this all with some soapy water. So we've got some good slipperiness happening here. And I'm going to drop this into place. Work it down into the fitting. Okay, I am happy with that. It is seated down right to the floor. And the nice thing is, while there are 2 screw holes that line up here and here, the other screw holes will have some fresh meat to dig into, which is good. It'll be a nice strong attachment. But yep, this is why I went with the one with more holes in it, because the hole in the floor isn't perfect. This screw will miss, this screw will miss. So I'm only going to be able to use 4 of the 6 to actually hold the closet flange down. So if I would have gone with the one that only had 4 screws in it, at best I might have seen 3 out of 4. I reassemble everything. I want to wash all of this business under here, and well, I just happen to have some soapy water with me right here and a bunch of clean rags, so that will suffice nicely to clean this up. Okay, for our purposes today, I'm going to call this clean. My wife has much more patience than I do when it comes to deep cleaning, and she could do a much better job, but yeah, I'm going with this for now. I completed the screwing down the closet flange, and I've slipped the base back on, and now I'll just drop the toilet on and do up the nuts.
Now, it may seem odd that I was sitting on the toilet to tighten the flange bolts, but here's the thing, you don't want to over tighten it. All you want to do is tighten it enough to compress the seals and make sure the toilet is sitting firmly on the floor and not rocking back and forth. And that's all you need. You don't need to over tighten it beyond that. This way we don't break the new flange.
And the final fitting that I tightened up was this one here. And now I'm going to go hook water up to the trailer and pressurize the lines and just make sure nothing leaks.
So there you go. What started out as a simple job where I was just going to change the flush valve on this toilet, and while I was at it put a shutoff in, turned into something a lot more. And that is often the way, whether it's a project at home like this or whether I'm at work doing facilities work around the school. You open something up, and invariably more than half the time you find more than you originally planned, and you just have to follow each thing you find to its proper conclusion to prepare things the way they need to be repaired. So thanks for watching. I know this was a little different than what my normal content is, but I have a life too, and this is part of it. So again, yeah, thanks for watching, and have a great day. Not seeing any leaking from down here. And that is how we're supposed to flush. So much better.